All righty, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the stream. We're going to be doing an overview of the severe weather risks for tonight as well as tomorrow. We do have multiple rounds expected to develop here starting at right around midnight tonight, and then that will continue into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Go ahead and make sure you hit the like button on the stream, get those likes up, algorithm pumped out for people who may not be aware of this. Let's go ahead and get started. So we do have a marginal and a slight risk in place per the SPC. The slight risk extends from the western UP all the way down to the western lower peninsula over by Grand Rapids areas. And then a marginal risk comes further east, almost over to the east side of the state. So we have a pretty good chunk here. Now remember, this is for today. This outlook is valid until 8 a.m. Tuesday morning before Tuesday's outlook takes over. The hazards for now, between now and 8 a.m. Tuesday morning, are as follows. Severe wind is going to be your primary concern. Wind gusts upwards of 60 plus miles per hour. That's going to be your primary concern. Secondary concern, there is a concern there in the western UP for a large hailstone, especially as storms begin to arrive right around that midnight time frame, a little bit after midnight especially. And then there is currently no concern for anything tornadic with the first round of storms. Okay, so damaging wind, your main concern, followed by large hail in the western UP. Looking at tomorrow's outlooks, begins at Tuesday, 8 a.m. and goes until Wednesday to 8 a.m. We do have the slight risk remaining in effect here for a really good portion here, a really good chunk of lower Michigan, as well as a marginal risk for portions of the UP. So a pretty much a statewide risk tomorrow as far as severe weather goes. Now, in terms of overall hazards, timing and all that, we'll dive in here in just a second. But overall, damaging wind, main concern, followed by large hail as a secondary concern, but still a decent 15% each there. So it's kind of even. I do think damaging wind is going to be your primary concern overall, but don't rule out the hail threat with this system as well. There is also a 2% tornadic risk in green areas for the southern portion of the UP, as well as central and northern portions of lower Michigan. That's going to be the lowest scale. The 2%, 2 to 4% is the lowest probability we can have from the SPC. So keep that in mind as well. It's not a very high risk, but it is a risk we're going to monitor nonetheless. All right. Looking at the future radar for tonight into tomorrow, looking at a few things here. I was actually not prepared for this. Give me a second to pull this up. I thought I had this all ready to go, but I did not. So here we go. Dive right on in. Perfect. All right. Latest model guidance here starting at tonight, right around midnight tonight. We start seeing some showers developing up there close to the western half of the UP. Then we have a little bit more substantial round coming in right around that 2 to 3 a.m. time frame. So some showers, actually a few showers ongoing right now in the western half of the UP. There's your live radar up there. So some showers going to be starting off here, but nothing severe is expected until 2 or 3 a.m. or so for the western UP. Moving back through the potential radar, here's 4 in the morning. We have some scattered showers working through. There's 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Here's 7, here's 8, here's 9, And then here is 10 a.m. It arrives in northern lower Michigan. But take note behind that, we also have development back here across Wisconsin. And again, back to the UP. We'll keep an eye on that to see if that develops. But a secondary round is possible there by right around noon. And that is expected to push eastward. It'll clear the state roughly by 2 or 3 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And then an additional round is possible later on in the evening, which if more uncertainty exists, this model has it way far south here, with just some scattered showers up there in northern Michigan. The bulk of the severe threat would be tied to the 94 corridor if the solution were to happen. But models right now are all over the place. Speaking of all over the place, flip over to the NAM 3 model here. Give me a second to get this back up. There we go. Here is a different model solution. Go ahead and back this up. So it says the UP begins showers right around right now, actually 7 o'clock. We have some showers up there. That's going to work its way through. But the bulk of this model says the severe activity tonight, overnight tonight, will stay pretty much south of the UP. But it's in Wisconsin, a little bit of a bow echo there, pushes across Lake Michigan, and arrives in West Michigan. This model says 3 in the morning. So some different solutions here, back and forth here. The NAM 3 model is not one we typically look to, but it just kind of goes to show that there's no real agreement going on here between models. So overall, watch out for anything. Although I do think for tonight, I do think that the risk is north of Mount Pleasant into the UP as well as northern lower. And then tomorrow afternoon, looking at this model, that comes through. And then additional round down there by Southwest Michigan by mid to late afternoon tomorrow. And then another round up there in the UP according to this model late tomorrow evening. That kind of pushes in toward northern lower there. So models are just all over the place at this point. So the expectation, I'd lean more so to the first model that we looked at, the HRR. I think that's a pretty good handle on things. We're probably going to see a round of showers and storms here in the UP tonight, roughly after probably midnight, probably close to 2 or 3. That'll work its way eastward, and then we're going to mostly probably look at a few showers developing to the south of that. It'll probably impact the northern lower Michigan area, roughly around that 10 to 11 a.m. time frame. So we're going to keep an eye on both those potential risks. And then as far as Tuesday evening goes, that's really the big question mark here. So a few things can happen with this potential system. Number one, if this solution on the model that we're seeing on the screen right now comes to verify, we're going to have what we call an outflow boundary developed on the south end of this system. What that basically does, outflow winds along the storm here can create more so in the way of lift to get storms up and going. So that's going to be a focus for potential redevelopment come Tuesday afternoon into the evening time frame. So if this comes and tracks through northern lower Michigan in the morning hours, we're going to kind of watch the boundary, the south end of that, to fire off more storms all along southern and central Michigan. Again, that's if we have a complex in northern Michigan. With that being said, if we don't get that complex, things are kind of even more so muddled. I do think there is potential for severe weather tomorrow, afternoon and evening. I do think it is highest further north just because we have better wind shear parameters and better support up further north. But there is so much instability in the atmosphere tomorrow that any storm in the state could produce damaging winds because we have what we call D-cape. That's just a measure of downdraft cape, which is your instability. The more we have, the more potential for downburst, microburst type of systems. So definitely something to watch there as we get to tomorrow afternoon. But I do think organized severe weather is going to stay. The big organized severe weather probably stay into northern lower Michigan tomorrow afternoon evening. Okay. We did have a couple of things to share with you guys here. Number one would be the map we put out earlier this morning. It kind of still holds true to what we're kind of thinking is going to happen. The blue circle indicating round one, and the time frames are kind of within that map itself. So 12 to 3 a.m. expect storms to begin, or around that time frame. 2 to 5 further east, and then for northern lower between 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's kind of our thinking right now in terms of the models. And then also yellow down there where we're kind of circling in southern Michigan is kind of uncertain depending on how round one plays out. So the big key question here is what happens tonight. What happens where it tracks, where it forms, how long it holds out. That'll highly dictate what happens tomorrow afternoon, evening. Confusing forecast, a hard forecast. I know, I get it. So with that being said, as far as timing goes, again, 12 a.m. at the earliest in the UP, likely closer to 2 or 3. That'll work eastward through the UP. more storms in northern lower as early potentially as 8 a.m. And then for the second round, probably going to be after 6 p.m. for southern lower if there's a round for southern lower come tomorrow.
I do have some I would like to add a little bit. I was mentioning this to Ryan right before we started about upper level support. Upper level support won't be as, I guess, needed for like events like tomorrow, but we have a jet maxima that's just off to our north over like Lake Superior and heading over into Ontario. So it's more likely that the system will perhaps dive a little bit further to the north. And then looking at more of our model solutions here, as you saw, a lot of them are majority favoring more to the north. And as we've mentioned a couple times in our previous outlooks, that north is more favored. Now, again, it can go anywhere tomorrow, but that's just a general consensus. And we also have to look at the fail mode factor for tomorrow. We also have a capping inversion, which you also mentioned a couple times over the past couple days as well. And that is basically like a lid on the atmosphere that keeps storms from firing up. They'll fire up, but they won't go anywhere too high into the atmosphere. And you need these really tall cloud tops to dig kind of into that better instability up there. And so with a cap, you don't get that. So that's something we'll have to watch tomorrow, as well as, maybe a lot of people, maybe 80% of the state might not get storms if the cap does persist like that. But again, with a lot of cape out there tomorrow, any storms that do fire up do have the chance to become strong and even severe.
Speaking of the Cape, though, looking at instability, we kind of look for anywhere upwards of 1,000 plus. Now, tomorrow on some of these models, we're looking at likely, go ahead and pull this back up here, give me a second. We're looking at probably closer to 2,000 or 3,000 some spots. So that's quite a bit of Cape, perhaps some higher amounts if we can get enough destabilization to occur. But the atmosphere, you probably heard a few people call it like a powder keg or juiced, and that holds very true. We have a lot of unstable air out there, but unstable air by itself does not cause thunderstorms. You have to have a trigger, and you have to have a sustaining mechanism to get those storms to become severe. So
you all recall SLIM, shear lift, instability, moisture. And there's a lot of what we call corn sweat going on out there right now with the moisture. Corn does produce a lot of moist parcels, and that's what we're seeing right now, especially here late August, the corn being as tall as it is. There's your chart right there, shear lift, instability, moisture. Again, we're going to have a lot of instability. That's that cape we were talking about. The moisture, of course, dew points well into the 70s. And then with a little bit of a passing low, you do have a little bit of lift, and then shear again is going to be kind of so-so. We'll have to keep an eye on that for anything that does kind of, spin up with the higher helicity values.
Sue has a comment here. She says storm musical chairs, and it's kind of the forecast here. There's a lot of uncertainty here. A lot of places could see storms. A lot of places may not see storms. So I know a lot of people are commenting, well, my weather app says this. My weather app says we're going to be dry. And honestly, it's going to be like a 50-50 chance across the state. You may be dry. You make it rain, make it storms.
As we mentioned before, weather apps not good for predicting precipitation. You do need like a second source to kind of guide you in the right direction. Because again, it'll show you sometimes it'll show you the majority forecast for the day. So it'll show partly cloudy skies, but there will be that 1 hour in there that they won't account for. That'll be perhaps a severe thunderstorm. So you have to really kind of go break it down hour by hour and see outside sources, degreed meteorologists like the people on TV, and soon to be me, but that's down the road here soon. So 4 months.
We'll have a much better idea what's going to happen Tuesday evening, tomorrow evening, after we figure out what's going to happen overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Because what happens tonight will heavily dictate what happens tomorrow. Mm-hmm. For tomorrow, I mean, there's so many different scenarios that I'm just going to say be alert as early as 8 a.m. if you're in the lower peninsula of Michigan. Some models are saying before that even. I'm just going to say be alert. Probably going to be after 8 a.m. for you guys in northern lower. If there's going to be a second round, likely be in the evening hours, probably after 6 or 7 p.m.
We also did have a couple new members in here, Bev Reed and PC Oysterland, coming new members here at YouTube. Thank you for supporting the team. And Pacify is back for another month here, saying thanks for the updates. Y'all are the goats. We do appreciate that, Pacify, as you're one of our continued members here. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. For some reason, my software is not picking those up. So
It's okay. Yes, corn sweat is a real thing.
evapotranspiration, I believe it's what it's called.
Mm-hmm. Loaded with moisture.
Keeping an eye on those storms right now in the UP. I don't think these are going to go severe anytime soon, but locally heavy rain up there. Also some lightning with those as they move into Baraga County, into Marquette County here in a second. So we're going to be watching this for a while here tonight. Probably going to be pulling all-nighters and perhaps back-to-back all-nighters. So hit like for our sleep schedules. At least mine. Joel has.
I got class.
So it'll probably just be me tonight. Do we think it'll go enhanced tomorrow? So the only way this goes enhanced is going to be if everything falls correctly for it to line up that way. It'll likely happen in northern lower where there's better wind shear. But overall, I don't foresee that happening. The SPC did mention potential for an upgrade at their latest outlook. I just don't foresee that happening unless there's a lot more higher confidence.
Which I believe they did briefly mention that they could in future updates, but right now that confidence isn't there.
And that could be for Wisconsin too, because they mentioned Wisconsin and Michigan, so it's not just for us. It could be for other portions of the region.
Yeah.
If they do upgrade to enhanced, it'd be for damaging winds. We have a lot of downdraft cape tomorrow, which is going to help support those downburst, microburst on a large scale. So if we get a line segment of storms, even with weaker wind shear, we could still have damaging winds via those downbursts. Will I put out a midnight video after the storms in UP hit? Jordan, I'll be watching probably all night, so expect updates on the page. If there's a lull in activity, I may try and crank out a YouTube video, but no promises with that. But just pay attention to the Facebook page. We'll have updates on there all night long.
I will say I am working on a timing graphic, the best timing graphic that I'm going to possibly make for you guys here. For those who follow us on Facebook and X, we will have that out sometime here later this evening once the stream is done. Again, I'm gonna kind of word it in the fact that it's gonna be earliest start time instead of the entire duration, because you could have storms that, especially for the UP, where right now some of the model runs are saying it might storm like all day tomorrow for the UP. So I'm gonna go ahead and say earliest start time for the timing map tonight. So keep that in mind when you see it later.
I have some people asking here in chat about future radar. So models are all over the place. So there's not really one solution we're looking at right now. But for a general guideline of what we're kind of thinking, I think the 18Z run of the HRRR kind of holds true to that. I think we're going to have storms in the western UP later tonight, probably after midnight, close to 1, 2, 3 a.m. Those possibly could be severe. That'll develop and push eastward here. And then more development on the south end of that line. That'll arrive in northern lower Michigan, probably right around 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And then potential for multiple rounds a little bit later on with development out here to the west across Wisconsin. So that's what we're kind of thinking. Early morning start, and then potentially a later round further south. But be prepared for anything. I really wish we could be specific with this, but oftentimes in summertime systems like this, we cannot. It's best to stay alert and just have ways to receive warnings just in case.
Once we get into the fall, we'll start having the low pressure systems with the well-defined warm front and the well-defined cold front. And behind that, there's nothing happening. So
much easier forecast that way.
Yeah. But we just have a shortwave trough riding a huge ridge right now. So, there could be other shortwave troughs that all of a sudden just form right behind it.
I see a comment in here for Wednesday. I wasn't going to mention Wednesday just because we're not going to get in depth at all with this, but the SPC does have a severe risk out for Wednesday as well. A slight risk, in fact, for Southeast Michigan, but a marginal upwards towards Roscommon. So another risk could develop on Wednesday. We're not going to talk about this because how tonight plays out will affect Tuesday. How Tuesday plays out will affect Wednesday. We would be doing you guys a disservice to mention anything about Wednesday.
But it's at least good to have a heads up that there is a chance.
Yes. Chris Penny back for a third month. Thank you, Chris. She says, thanks, y'all. Want to thank you, Chris. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Chris Penny, for your support. Yeah, and we don't disappear in the winter. We'll be back for the winter.
Well, we'll be back all right. Expect snow forecast, briefings, etc. The only difference in the wintertime is we don't go live for snowstorms unless they're like really big events like blizzards. We might go live once or twice, but otherwise we don't cover it like we do severe weather. We'll have forecasts though. No worries with that.
There's a question here for perhaps seeing the precipitation models.
I really don't think that's going to be helpful at all. We can look at it.
Yeah. Especially given the fact that one model, again, these models have Boeing segments going north, Boeing segments going south. So that biggest swath could be down. It could be 100 miles south or 100 miles north.
Yeah.
Is that the HRRR?
Yes, 18Z.
Yeah.
And that's true Wednesday at 2 p.m. Do we chase snowstorms? Yes, we do chase snowstorms.
Highly doubt trace for Grand Rapids is going to happen, but
yeah, I don't know about that. Michigan ice storm chasers.
Yes, I have seen thunder snow.
We've actually had thunder snow the past 2 winters here in Michigan, believe it or not. So let's make it a third. Genesee County tornado chances. Mike Ass also says, congrats, Joel, on finishing degree. He's not finished yet, but he will be in about 4 months. But Genesee County tornado chances, I don't think it's going to be very high at all. The 2% tornado risk is positioned well north of Genesee County. Actually, I can't say that. It's actually borderline Genesee County. So it's close, but you're still not really in it. I think it's going to be much higher further to the north. For some reason, I thought Genesee was Macomb County. I don't know why I thought that. But
another thing about the day one SBC outlook that we also were looking at behind the scenes, that's the day two. The day one has a little bit of that slight nose into West Michigan. That's based off of, I believe, the NAM 3K. Yes. And the HRRR has been flip-flopping between the – so we're at like the 21Z or 22Z run right now. The 18Z through the 22Z run, every single run, it flips back and forth on whether it's going to go north or whether it's going to go south. So it's like, 50-50, like Ryan said. Like that slight nose that you see there on your screen could be more further to the north. But again, it's a probability thing. So either way, your probability of seeing damaging winds tonight is 5 to 15%-ish. So it's relatively low, but you still want to keep that in mind. And again, that's more for tomorrow morning as well, because this outlook goes until 8 a.m.
ASMR stream tonight. We'll see how it's going. I don't think Joel's going to be here tonight, man.
I can only do so much now that I'm back in school. I can't stay up as late. Chase storms in Michigan, probably because of all the foresty. 66% of the state is forest, I would have to imagine. There's really only good chase terrain like central Michigan and south.
You're not wrong. It's extremely tough to chase Michigan in certain areas. The thumb is actually underrated. Huron County, Tuscola County, Sanilac County. That's good terrain up there.
But if you guys remember from the Gladwin County chase earlier this year, I was driving through a literal swamp, and there were trees everywhere.
You're dragging.
For all-wheel driving. Thank goodness I had all-wheel drive, because I was not getting through there otherwise.
The thumb area is not hilly.
Yeah, it is very flat.
Flat.
especially Huron County. If you go like, especially like more northern thumb. If y'all have ever been to Illinois, it's just like that. Just flat. You can see for 20, 30 miles sometimes.
I'd say winds tonight, tomorrow, 60 miles per hour, maybe a few isolated higher gusts, but it shouldn't be. I guess I wouldn't expect it at this point to be a significant event, as in like 80 plus. I wouldn't expect any of those. Yeah, I see a comment here. We do have heat advisories as well as excessive heat warnings now in effect. Go ahead and pull this back in here real quick. Give it a second. So all these counties that you see in orange are under a heat advisory. It does include Mason, Oceana, Muskegon, and Ottawa. I'm not sure why our software is not adding these counties. They are also included. Berrien and Cass County down here are in excessive heat warnings. So the heat index tomorrow will be 105, and especially in those heat warnings down there, Berrien and Cass County, over 105 possible. So make sure you're taking your precautions all across the state, really. Hydrate, stay cool, wear light clothing, loose clothing, limit your time outdoors or exposure to heat if possible. Just make sure you're taking your precautions because heat is, I think, the leading killer of weather phenomena across the United States. So take it seriously. Make sure you're taking precautions.
It's tied with flooding, I believe. Actually, yeah.
And you wouldn't think that about flooding either.
Well,
at least I know I wouldn't. Maybe
right.
Some people will, but
a lot of people think it's 3 inches of water and ends up being 30, and next thing you know, your car slipped away. So you got to be careful out there. If you can't see the road bottoms,
yep,
turn around. There's a lot of like false pretenses of like, oh, it can't happen to me, and then it might.
It doesn't happen to you until it does.
No.
And honestly, I've heard a lot of people say that too, who actually experienced that. Like I've always thought it was never going to happen to me until it actually did. So yeah. Nobody is immune to anything here in Michigan. A lot of people say, "Oh, storms split my town. They go north, go south of me." We actually had a comment today on our page that asked when Muskegon's going to get a storm because they've been split all year long. But I thought back to June 25th, you guys had a monster 80 mile per hour windstorm move through, took out power and everything. And I'm just kind of thinking, if you're going to think about that, people are affected other than you. So be considerate when you make those comments too.
Yeah. The best way to make sure that never happens to you is just always be safe. Just always know what to do in certain situations and you'll be fine.
Brett with a $5 super chat says, supposed to go salmon fishing in Whitehall tomorrow at 3 p.m. Boat captain says we are fishing. Do you think storms will hold off tomorrow? Very hard to tell. 3 p.m. time frame, you may be dry. It's a hard forecast. I'm going to lean toward being dry during that time frame, but be prepared for some pop-ups. And I think the later on you get into the evening, the higher your chances of any storms become. So the earlier you do it, the better, in the afternoon at least. Hey, we got Fordo back in here. Long time no see, Fordo. We just talked about the heat.
Can't find how to subscribe. Subscribing on YouTube, there should be a red button at the bottom of your screen. Make sure you do have a YouTube account if you want to subscribe. And again, subscribing on YouTube, completely free to do.
It's the equivalent of following on Facebook.
Yep.
Can the lakes kill the storms? Not in this case. The lakes are warm. Colder lakes, yes, they can kill storms, but in this case, no. Not tonight.
Yeah, we have to wait for more for the transition season. Once the atmosphere becomes cold and the lakes are still warmer. It was the wrong color to wear today, absolutely. But business decision, Michigan Storm Chasers merch. So
I should have worn mine.
it's okay.
Should have worn it, but this is a nice, cool one. Next SPC update is at 9 p.m. tonight, and then tomorrow's for Tuesday is updated at 2 a.m. And I'll be updated again at 9 a.m. and again at 12:30 p.m. and again at 4 p.m. So we have multiple more outlooks and refinements to go through for Tuesday.
Again, for those who are just tuning in, I will have a projected start timing map up for tonight. So it'll show what we project the earliest start time will be for most of the area if there are thunderstorms that do develop. So just because you're in, like, for example, 8 a.m. or later, doesn't exactly mean you're going to see a storm, but that's what we're projecting right now for the earliest start time for storms in your area.
Comment in here if we sell sweatshirts. Yes, we do. It's on our website, helicity.co. I just dropped a link there. Not sure if that came through, but I'll drop it again with the www.
Any sporting events tomorrow could be canceled, yes, or see a delay.
Wouldn't be shocked to see a few schools closing because of the heat, too.
Mm-hmm. And another thing about the SBC maps, it's 25 miles within a point. So if you're on the edge of the slight, you can still consider yourself like fully in the slight risk. The tornado risk from the SBC itself tomorrow is 2%.
Jordan asked if a 5% tornado contour is possible. At this point, I'm going to say no.
Unless I see some sort of model agreement overnight that throws a more or storm relative helicity our way.
Right. You have to take some things to come together to make that happen, which honestly, models have been all over the place. I wouldn't really expect anything to come together overnight. That's an opinion. It's not a fact.
Yeah. And that 2% is north of like M46. So that basically is like from Elma to Saginaw and points north. I added an extra N to Elma for some reason. You could safely say north of Grand Rapids and Flint is that 2%.
Where'd it go? There it is. There's your 2%. Any possibility of a downgrade at all? So possible, Becca, for certain areas tomorrow, but again, not until they have more confidence. If any area right now gets downgraded, I'm going to probably say south or southeastern Michigan. Turtle, go ahead and send us an email or a direct message on Facebook. At this point, Braden, I don't think we're going to go enhanced. It's possible. They mentioned it at the latest update, but I don't see anything unless something happens dramatically overnight tonight. I don't think it's going to happen. How is the radar looking for Marquette area? Well, right now there's a single storm on the Baraga Iron County line. Animate that for you. It's moving very slowly off to the. It's not moving at all. It's just stationary.
Barely moving east.
Yeah, barely. So perhaps some really heavy rain there in southern Baraga County. And as far as wind goes with that storm, I don't see any wind with it.
Yes, Tuesday can and will affect what happens on Wednesday.
Yep. And for those of you just tuning in, there's a risk on Wednesday as well, which we're not going to go into because there is really no confidence at all.
Yep.
The environment is expected to be very hot and humid, perhaps some shear involved, but a lot can change between now and then with these types of setups. So we're just going to leave it be. We'll cover this more in depth tomorrow if we have to. Any other questions, guys? Saw a question about a watch party tonight. Probably not. I'm gonna probably nap until 1 or 2, hopefully, and then I'll probably be up doing updates all night long. So I'll probably be busy working. So
yeah, if it truly has an anytime, anywhere sort of ordeal, and with me being in school and Ryan being pretty much the only one on streams while I'm in school, we're gonna try and get as much sleep in, especially if it's like a multi-day severe risk, which we do currently have in place. So for right now, we're trying to stay away from the watch parties. But if we have in the future events when it's just one day that we're focusing on, then yes.
Right. It helps when we have 2 people tag teaming things, so we can kind of nap and flip flop,
right?
So we get some rest. But
yep,
it's a lot harder here in school season.
Yeah, reminder: we are all volunteer here at Michigan Storm Chasers, so any support you want to send our way, totally optional. But we do appreciate it either way. It keeps these streams going for you guys. We appreciate your support as always. I am not going live in class. Absolutely no way. That would break some sort of
goodness
unwritten rule.
Goodness, can you imagine?
I'm in college. I'm in my last year of college. I know I look young.
Jordan, whenever there's severe weather, if we happen to luck out for some reason between now and tomorrow morning, I'll probably do a briefing. I may wait until Joel is available early afternoon to do a briefing, if that's okay with you, Joel.
Sure.
So maybe like 2 o'clock or so. Would that be around the time you'd be free?
Yeah, I'm in class from 10 to noon. So
okay, so we'll plan for right around 2 o'clock, and that's only if severe is not happening.
Everyone's trying to guess my age. I'm a lot older than you guys think. We can probably do our last mile recap. 25 is correct, or 24 is correct. Yes. Quick shout out to our sponsor, of course, Cats Roofing and Siding. We haven't shouted them out yet, Ryan, but they are our one sponsor that we have right now. Located out of Potterville, Michigan, near Lansing. If you are looking to get roofing, siding, windows done, it's the place to go. So if you happen to contact them, tell them Michigan Storm Chasers sent you their way.
Kind of recapping everything once again for you guys. So multiple rounds are possible between right now, probably after midnight though, for the Western UP, especially starting off. And then as we get closer to sunrise, northern lower Michigan will then have a shot for some storms. And then later on Tuesday evening, south central Michigan has a shot at some storms there. A lot of uncertainty with that third round there in south central Michigan. But regardless, SPC risks for tonight up until 8 a.m. has a marginal risk for pretty much the entire state minus the eastern 2 tiers of counties in southeast Michigan. Damaging winds, your primary concern. Hail concern may develop up in the western UP as storms first arrive. Keep an eye on that. Currently, no risk for anything tornadic at this time. Tomorrow, we do have a slight risk, a very large slight risk in effect for pretty much it actually is all of lower Michigan, portions of the UP, and then the other areas in the UP are in a marginal risk. So basically, everybody in Michigan within a severe risk tomorrow. Hazards tomorrow, damaging wind, large hail, both at 15% probabilities. So kind of equal there on the threats. But I do believe damaging wind will be the highest concern out of the two threats with that. Same areas, no change between the wind and hail outlooks. There also is a 2% tornado contour north of Alma, Grand Rapids, Flint areas up into the southern portions of the UP. So tomorrow afternoon, evening, we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that to see if anything would develop up there. Higher shear values are up in that green area. So we'll watch that very closely and adjust as needed. Otherwise, that's all I got to share with you guys. Stay tuned. I'll be posting updates all night long. So stay tuned to the Facebook page for that. I see Kevin here back gifting 10 memberships. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate your support. For those who just got gifted, welcome to the team, guys.
And again, that's if you are a subscriber here on YouTube, free to do. Check your accounts. You may have just been gifted courtesy of Kevin. So thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
Do you want to go over the quick model run again, just to show them at least one loop for those who are just tuning in?
So the model here, again, take with a grain of salt. Models are, if there is a dartboard, there's a dart for every model in every single slot in the dartboard. So keep an eye on the Western UP, though. This is after midnight at this model at this point, 4 a.m. That kind of develops 5, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, noon, 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and then round 2, we're looking off to the southwest here across Wisconsin, this area right here. What develops out there is going to push southeastward. So this model says we avoid most of it, but we could see some development further to the north. Keep an eye on that for tomorrow night. But a lot of uncertainty with this forecast. But for right now, I do think the highest chance and the focus should remain on the storms that are expected in the UP after midnight tonight, as well as northern lower Michigan close to sunrise. All right. Did I miss anything?
I think you're good. Again, timing map coming later for earliest start time. It's not going to show you. It's not going to tell you when it's supposed to go through. It's going to say earliest start time. So keep that in mind. And again, that'll be on our Facebook page, Michigan Storm Chaser. If you don't follow us, go ahead and follow us there. And over on X or Twitter, as it's also called, at MI Storm Chasers. And again, if you haven't followed us on X, Facebook, or here on YouTube yet, feel free to drop a follow. It helps support what we do here. So thank you guys again.
All right. We'll see you guys likely later tonight. And like Joel said, stay tuned to our pages for updates. We'll have updates rolling out all night long. So stay tuned. Stay safe.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.